Once you've made 1 or 2 lays, it takes you about 10 to 15 minutes at the very most to make a candy lay. So the supplies you'll need for making a candy lay is you'll need polytubing, and what polytubing is this long length of plastic, and it is a tube, and then it allows you to slip the candy inside and make the length as long as you want, and that's what creates the candy lay. So in addition to the polytubing, you'll need candies of your choice, and this lay is for a graduation, so I chose the colors of the school, but you could choose favorite candies of the person you're going to give the lay to, or you could choose rainbow colored candy. Whatever your choice is, the key though is to pick candy that will not melt in the sun. So look for hard candies, gums, or things like Airheads, Skittles, Sour Patch Kids, like gummy types of candies that won't melt. You'll need ribbon, and in this case, because it's a graduation lay, I chose ribbon that's in the color of the school. But you could choose, rainbow colored ribbon or the recipient's favorite color. You can use curling ribbon. I like for graduation lays to use the satin ribbon, and this is the 1/8 inch width, and it does a very nice job with the lay. And then finally, you'll need a pair of scissors. So the first step you're going to do is you're going to measure your polytubing. And in general, I cut the polytubing anywhere between 40 and 60 inches long, and it really depends on who you're giving the lay to. So if you're giving it to a child, 40 to 45 inches might be the right length. If you're giving it to an adult, probably 55 to 60, and then if you're giving it to an adult that's exceptionally tall, you might want to make it even longer than 60 inches. So what I recommend is that if you're not sure, first of all, you can hold a tape measure up to yourself and estimate about how long you'd like to make it, and then add 5 to 10 inches, because as you tie the lay between the candy, it will shorten up the length of the total lay. Also, if you're not sure, go ahead and cut it for 60 or more inches, and then you can always cut off the extra polytubing at the end once you've made the lay and you see if it's too long or if it's the right length. So your first step is to measure, and then go ahead and cut the polytubing. So with this lay, I had started with 60 inches of polytubing, and the final resulting lay ended up being about 42 inches. So that'll give you an idea of how long your polytubing should be. So some people cut their ribbon as they're making their lay, but I prefer to start off with a stash of already cut lengths of ribbon. It just makes the lay making go a little faster. So I recommend cutting your lengths of ribbon to about 8 inches. This gives you plenty of space to make tying the ribbons easier. And once you attach them to your lay, you can always trim them to the length that you'd like. So at this point, I cut about 10 to 12 lengths of ribbon, and then I'm ready to start with my lay making. So when you have your polytubing cut and your ribbon lengths cut, you're ready to start putting the lay together. So what I do is I put the 2 ends of the polytubing together, and then I just slide down to find the approximate middle. And then I lay that out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start at one end of the polytubing. And if you're using different size candies, it might be easiest to start with one of the largest ones in the center at the bottom of the lay. And then you just simply open up the polytubing, put your candy in, and then you're just going to slide it down the polytubing all the way down to where the middle of your lay is. So I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to just check again by lining the ends up and see if it's the approximate middle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to be close. Then at this point, some people go ahead and tie the ribbon lengths on. I like to put a couple of candies in and then tie. And you can decide whether you want to make a pattern or whether you want to randomly insert the candy. That's entirely up to you and your preference. For this, I'm going to put the school's 2 main colors, and then next I'm going to put the 3rd color of candy. So at this point, I'm going to take some ribbon and start tying. And what I do is, again, this is our starting one. I'll just go here between the 2, and the knot that you tie isn't so important. I just tie a regular knot and pull it tight, then tie it again. And then at that point, I'm going to pull it close to the candy, and I'm going to tie one on the other side. So again, we're just tying a knot. I don't worry about tying anything fancy. We're just tying a regular knot and pulling it tight. So you don't need to worry if one of the lengths of ribbon are shorter or longer, because at the end you can come back and trim it up. Then we'll move on to the next one. So you can see there's a gap here, and we will simply slide the candy a little tighter, close to this one, and then we're going to tie another knot. And at this point, I'm going to slide the knot closer to the candy. Then we'll come to this one and push this candy closer to the previous one. Now I'll come to this side. And then you'll decide how you want to arrange your candy next. I think I'm going to, at this point, start alternating the smaller candies and then the darker blue ones. So I'll keep adding candy until I reach the end of my poly tubing. So after you've almost come to the end of your candy lay, you want to make sure that you have enough poly tubing on each side that when you put the final piece of candy in and you tie the ribbons, that each of the ends will be tied closed. This will prevent it from sliding out. And ask me how I know. Yes, I've done it the wrong way before, or it slipped. So what will happen is, see, if you tie this end here and then this end you tied the ribbon here, it will slide out. So make sure you have enough extra length that when you put the final piece of candy, both of the ends will be caught up in the bow that you tie. So you'll slide your candy in one side, and then what you'll need to do, and it takes just a little bit of time, you'll need to place that end into this other end, and then just go ahead and slide it down. And then we'll put the candy here in the middle. And you'll just work with the plastic tubing to get it so that you can tie, this end will be tied closed, and then both ends will be caught in the ribbon. And then we'll tie our other ribbon here and make sure that you're catching both of those ends of the poly tubing. Your lay. So once you're finished with your candy lay, just go through and check the ribbons, and any that seem long or mismatched, you can trim them up. See, this one's a little mismatched. Trim them. Just trim them carefully, because just like with bangs, if you trim off too much, you can't put it back. The good news is here, you simply add a new ribbon. Trim them to whatever your personal preference is, and within just a few minutes, you have a festive candy lay to give as a gift.